Hello, I'm the Coding Bird, and in this video, I'll be showing you how to make a beginner game in Idle, Pygame Zero, a simplified version of Pygame, and Python. Before we begin, I need you to double check that you have Python, Pygame, Pygame Zero, and Idle all downloaded. If you do not know how to download these things and you're on a Windows 10 or 11 computer, I made a video on how to do this on my channel. So, if you do not know how to download these things, you can go check it out. Once you have all the necessary downloads needed, you are going to want to open up Idle. When you open it, you're going to see this Idle shell right here. We are not going to be typing our code in here because nothing saves, but I will be going over the 4 types of variables right now. First is a Boolean. This is a true or false statement. The T in true and F in false always need to be capitalized when naming a Boolean variable in Python. Next is a string. This is a text. It must begin and end in either single or double apostrophes. Third is an integer. This is a whole number. Fourth is a float, which is a decimal number. Okay, so why did I just name all the 4 types of variables right now? Because you cannot make a game or a website or anything if you cannot use variables or understand what they are. They are a necessity when coding. Okay, now, attached to this details of this video, there is a link to a zipped folder, and you are going to want to download it right now. The folder that was downloaded should be called simplegrabgame.zip. Right now, we are going to want to just unzip it. So you can go to extract all, hit on your extract location, and inside, you're going to see images, the player and the thing, sounds, point, and an example of the game if you want to test it out. Okay, now let's go back to our shell. Now let's open a new file where we will be typing in our code. Here we can type in code that will be able to be saved, and let's save it now. So you could go to save, and we want to call it grab.py because it's a Python file. And then we're going to want to locate our simple grab game, save it where the images and sounds are so it can have access to those, hit on save. Okay, first we want to import our modules. These are going to help our game do what we want it to do. So we can import Pygame Zero. Type in import pgz run. Now we need to initialize it. So we can do pgz run.go. This will initialize Pygame Zero. Now if we run it, we get this nice big black screen, but it appeared partially off the screen, which can cause issues with drawing images on the screen. So let us fix that now. So we can close everything down. We can import another module called OS. So go to OS and type in os.environ SDL video centered. We want to make a string here called SDL video centered, all in caps, with opening and closing square brackets. Then we want to do equals 1. I will not be getting into what this does, but now if we run our code, you'll notice that the screen shows up right in the middle of our window here. So we can close this down. Now let's define the width and height of our screen, because that screen that just showed up is a little bit too big for this game. So we can go down and type in width equals 400 and height equals 400. Now I made this in caps because even though Python treats it as a normal variable, basically says that you are not, or any other coder is not supposed to be changing this variable at all in the game. So now if you run it, get no errors because Python treats it as a normal variable, but it's smaller and everything works right. So now let's create our player, but before we do that, I want to make some variables to define the player position. So you could do center underscore x equals width divided by 2. When naming a variable that is 2 words, you cannot do a space. You must always do an underscore or just nothing at all. But I just like to use underscores because it makes it look nicer. Now we could do player start equals center x, so the center of the x coordinates, and then 360 for the y. The x coordinates always copy for the y in Python. The y coordinates, there's some sort of odd thing with Python, is that the top of the screen is going to be 0 and the bottom of the screen is going to be 400. So if it's a negative number, it's going to appear at the top of the screen, and if it's like more than 400, it's going to appear at the bottom of the screen. It's a kind of weird Python thing, but if you're coding long enough, you'll get used to it. So now let's define our player. So we can say player equals actor. It's an actor in the game, and then we will be using the image player. Make sure you have opening and closing parentheses, and that the double and single apostrophes are not mixed up, because that will cause an error. Okay, so I add a space right here. Now we can do player dot position, or POS, equals player start. So we're telling that the position is this variable that we created here. But if you ran the code now, you'd notice that the player wouldn't be shown because we aren't drawing it on the screen. So let's do that now. So you can go down and type in def draw. We are creating a function here, which is a command that we're going to tell Python to run. Also, any line after a colon must be indented 4 spaces. Mine does it automatically, but if yours doesn't, make sure it's indented 4 spaces or else you will get an error. So we could go down and we could type in screen.fill white, then player.draw. So we're filling the screen with white because our player is black, so you won't be able to see it because the screen is initially black. Now if we run our code, here is our player. So that's working fine. Now let's add some movement input for our player. So we can go down and type in def update. This is going to fire on every single frame. If keyboard.write, before we start moving the player, I just want to go here and make a new variable called player underscore speed equals 1.5. So we are creating a variable here. Now I can go down and type in player.x plus equals, player speed. When adding or subtracting to like a position or something, you can't do just plus, you have to do plus equals or minus equals. Now, before we add the keyboard left, I want to show you a bit of a glitch that's going to happen. Now, if you hold the right key, actually no, it's not going to happen right now, but it can happen for other games. I've had it happen before. It's not happening right now, but for other games, there can be ghosting issues. So we're going to want to clear the screen. So screen.clear, this will clear the screen. To prevent any other ghosting issues. The player doesn't have it. But for other games, sometimes the player can have it, and it'll cause a whole bunch of players to draw on the screen every second you're holding the keyboard right. So now we can also do if keyboard.left, player.x minus equals player speed. This will add movement input to the left. If you ran it right now, you notice we can move both left and right, but you'd also notice that we can go off the screen, which we will fix at the very end of this video. So now we can go to defining our things. Now, how are we going to do this? Because we don't want to just copy and paste like a whole bunch of things equals actor thing. We're not going to do that. We are going to create a loop, and it's going to loop through like 10 times, and we're going to say for every time it's looping, create an actor called thing, define a random position, add it to a list, and why are we adding it to the list? Now, if you added it to a list, you could do like for thing in things, because if we call the list things, then we could like do thing.draw. So it's really good to like when you're using a loop to add things to a list. So now we can go here, and first let's create the list. So we can do things equals opening and closing square brackets. Square brackets will be creating a list. So we are creating an empty list, and then we'll add to it later. So now we can do for I in range. This will create a loop 10 colon thing equals actor thing. So thing is an actor. Then let's import a new module to get a random position. So from random import random. Now random itself just picks a random decimal number from 0 to 1, but random will allow you to like make a list, say from 1 to 6, pick a random number in that range. So now I can go here and say thing.position equals random 0 width. We're defining it on the x coordinates, and then random -1000, -30. So it'll show up like some will be really high above the screen, some will be just pretty close to the screen, so it'll come down faster. And now we can go down and say things dot append thing. Now this will create this will add the thing to the things list. Now I can go down and type in for thing in things thing.draw, but you won't be able to see it because it's above the screen, so we can go down here and say for thing in things thing.x plus equals, it's actually thing.y plus equals 2. I'm not going to be turning this into a variable since we're only going to be using it once. Now if we run our code, you can just go to save here or just hit Control+S, and then you can hit F5 to run your code also. Now the things are falling from the sky, but there is no collision for them yet, so let's set that up now. First, let's create a variable called points. So we can go down and type in points equals 0. Then we can go down here and say if thing dot colliderect. Actually, I want to add a little space there to make it nicer looking. Player, so we're creating a box collision for the player. That's what colliderect stands for. Rect stands for rectangle. Player, so if the rect collides with the player, then we want to add the points. So points plus equals 1. And then there's going to be a little bug here. Let me show you. We get this error. Cannot access local variable points when it is not associated with a value. That is because since we did not define points, since we are changing the points in our function, it cannot change to the points unless we type in global points, which will give it access to our points. So now, if we run our code, actually before we run our code, you can't tell if the points are going up or not, so let's actually draw it on the screen. So we can call screen draw text points space here. You always need to make sure when you're drawing a text it has to be in the draw function. Now I can do plus str points. We can't add an integer to a string, so we need to convert it to a string. And then we need to define the color. Color equals red. Then position equals center x plus 100. And then 40. Now, if we run our code, we're going to have another bug here. The point just shoot up like crazy. Why is that? Because every frame the point is colliding with the player, we add points. So on the first frame it collides with the player, we're going to need to reset its position. So we can get this thing to position, copy it, paste it here. Now if we run it, the thing just resets at the top of the screen, which is what we want. Now let's add a sound effect. We can go down here and type in sounds point play. So this will play point sound, which is what we need. Now let's reset the points if it goes off the screen. So we can go down here, type in if thing.top greater than height, because that would mean it's below the screen, the top of it's below the screen. Then we can just copy this thing position, copy it, go down here, paste it in, and this will reset it. Now, let's add some boundaries for the player, which is the final thing we need before our code is finished. So we can go down here and type in if player.right greater than width, so if it's greater, the right of the player is partially off the screen to the right, player.right equals width. Then if player.left less than 0, so if the left of the player is off the screen to the left, we want to player.left equals 0. Now if we run our code, you should be hearing a sound effect when you interact with it. Now you'll notice that you can't go off the screen. You cannot go off the screen to the left either, no matter how many times you press the button. And that is all we need for our game. You have now finished it. Good job. This is how we create a simple game in Pygame Zero. Went over a whole bunch of fundamentals of Pygame Zero, and I showed you what the 4 types of variables are, even if we didn't use a game over or other Boolean variables. And you can expand on this if you like. This is just like a beginning thing. You can like add a game over or like a win condition. And thank you for watching. See you next video.